start.
Yeah,
we'll
thank
leave
you.
the door open so that
I'm,
people can come and go.
I'm Hal Cook. I'm a professor in the history department, and I'm here just to introduce Allison, who's going to be in charge of the presentation of what's been going on. I just want to say a couple of things about the background to this. This is has been advanced in a collaborative way, but one of the people who's taken it forward is my colleague Tara Nummedal, who is somebody who works on the history of alchemy, among other things. She's also a scholar of early modern Germany and the Reformation and so on, but one of the things she's worked on and written about recently with a recent book called Lion's Blood, which is about a female alchemist who was eventually executed in Germany in the 16th century. So she's very interested in the history of alchemy, and this book is often seen as a part of the history of alchemy. But alchemy touches on many other things, and this book touches on many other things. So let me just say one other thing by way of introduction, and that is that humans are animals that cook. There's a scholar at a rival institution in anthropology who thinks that humans are biologically dependent upon cooking, and that our pre-human ancestors started cooking and using fire in that way, and that our physiology is dependent upon cooked foods and all that. All right, so the point is the control of fire gives humans all kinds of capacities, and it is certainly there in the history of cooking, but also the history of alchemy. And so the furnace here, I think, is very important, the furnace and fugue, that using the fire and heat in various ways allows materials in the world, substances of one kind or another, to be disentangled from one another. You can get, so part of alchemy was getting at the essences of things. And from that eventually comes chemistry, people thinking about elements in various ways and so on. So, but all of that process of disentangling substances in the world is also very meaningful. And trying to figure out what the nature of nature is. So this book is something that mixes together not just thinking about alchemical processes, but the visual, the auditory in the music, and the text, of course. So it was a great experiment for the Digital Scholarship Lab. That's Allison Levy's baby. And she joined, we're very happy that she came to join us recently, just a few years ago, with a background in art history, but also knowing a lot about early books as well. And so the Mellon Foundation, she'll say more about it, but gave us a grant to experiment with new forms of digital publication. And this is the first one that will be published from a university press soon. And Allison is the person who's managed that process and is managing the process of a number of other projects to look at digital scholarship, as we're calling it, going forward from various members of the faculty. So just one thing about her, she did get her PhD in history from in history of art from Bryn Mawr, and has held a number of academic appointments at various places before coming to Brown, and has published a number of things that and is in charge of a book series called Visual and Material Culture, 1300 to 1700, which is a series published by University of Amsterdam Press. Most recently, I just want to say, she didn't put this on the note she gave me to introduce her, but she's recently published something called The House of Secrets, The Many Lives of a Florentine Piazza. So it's taking the idea of a dwelling in Florence and looking at its life over time, which was published just in 2019, earlier this year. It's been already widely reviewed, and so we're very happy to have her here leading this project in digital scholarship part of digital humanities more widely, and she can introduce this project as one of the great examples that's coming to light at last. So thank you so much, Allison.
Thank you, Hal. Welcome to the library. It's a beautiful day out, so really happy to have you indoors for a little bit. And it's great working with Hal, who's on our faculty advisory committee for the initiative, and so we get to talk about these projects and about the larger questions of publishing in the digital age. And it's great to have a colleague like Hal here. So I'm going to introduce you all to our pilot project, which is Furnace and Fugue. And we have a copy of the book that inspired the project from the Hay here as well, so we'll have some time with it. But to put Furnace and Fugue into the larger context, I wanted to begin this morning by telling you a little bit more about Brown's very innovative digital publications initiative, Advancing Excellence and Innovation in Digital Scholarship. The timing of Family Weekend could not be better. We have two big announcements that have just been released in the last week. The first is the very exciting news. This is the lead from our press release that the Mellon Foundation has awarded Brown $775,000 to continue our work in digital scholarship. So our initiative began about 5 years ago with an initial grant from the Mellon Foundation of $1.3 million. It was very much an experiment for us, for any other institution as well, thinking about reshaping scholarly publishing. And it has proven to be quite successful, as I think you'll see with Furnace and Fugue. And so it's very rewarding to have our work to date recognized by the Mellon Foundation, celebrated, and to have their encouragement as we go forward for another 6 years with this initiative. So let me tell you what we're trying to do. What is Monograph publishing in the digital age? So this is a graphic from the Mellon Foundation. Most of these features apply to Brown's initiative. We are rethinking really the terms of scholarly publishing. So we are moving away from the printed monograph and thinking about how digital tools and technologies can change the way that authors do research, that authors are conceiving of their ideas, how they're presenting them to readers, and also how we can use these digital tools to advance arguments in ways that we could not do in traditional print publishing. So many of the interactive features, for example, the multimedia features that you're going to experience in a few minutes, we could not do with printed publishing. So it's very exciting. There still is a lot of experimentation. We have many projects, and I'm going to give you a sense of those. Each one is a little bit different, but for the most part, our projects are interactive and searchable. Many of them revolve around primary sources. That certainly is the case with Furnace and Fugue. They are portable across reader applications, so you can now read scholarship on your phone, on your tablet, of course on your desktop. And I should say also that these are born digital projects. So we're not starting with a printed book and creating a digital companion to it. We're also not creating sort of companion websites for teaching. Of course, there are great pedagogical pluses to these works that we're creating. But they are born digital, original, long-form scholarly works. So long form could be anything from 50,000 to 100,000 words. And they are not necessarily open access. That will depend upon the publisher, but our pilot project will be published as such. they are peer-reviewed. This is very crucial, so that these original scholarly works will undergo rigorous review by the press, by a university press, and also we expect that they will be reviewed by disciplinary journals, and they will receive the same critical attention that a printed monograph receives. So, these are our current projects. Furnace and Fugue is our first pilot. We started about 3 years ago with the first two. I'm really happy to have the University of Virginia Press logo here next to Furnace and Fugue. This is the second great announcement to make to you all today. We found out just about a week ago that Virginia will publish our pilot project in fall of 2020. So that's exciting news, and it will be an exclusively digital publication, so there won't be a print component. So that changes things for readers as well. Italian Shadows is an examination of 18th and 19th century optical devices that opened up new worlds or virtual worlds. Massimo Riva is in Italian Studies. He's the chair of that department. The Sensory Monastery is a great challenge for us to think about translating sensory experience to the screen. Sheila Bond and Clark Maines are the co-authors. Sheila is in the History of Art department. Islamic Pasts and Futures. This is about temporality in Islam by Shahzad Bashir, who is our Director of Middle East Studies here at Brown. David Kurtzer, our celebrated Italian Studies, History, Anthropology professor at Brown, working on some correspondence of Nicholas Brown that he recently rediscovered here, and he's contextualizing that within the story of the Roman Revolution. So these are the current projects that I've been working on for the last few years, all led by humanities faculty at Brown, but covering a range of disciplines. And another announcement, 2 new projects were selected just last week. So I have these to look forward to. Rebecca Schneider in Theater Arts and Performance Studies working on gesture. And Sawako Nakayasu in Literary Arts has a project of sort of rediscovery of Chika Sagawa, an early 20th century poet working in Tokyo. So I think this gives you a good sense of the variety of projects that we have here at Brown. And so now on to Furnace and Fugue, and the co-editors of this project, Tara Nummedal, our professor of history, and her co-editor, Dr. Donna Belak, who's an independent scholar based in New York. So neither of them could be here today, unfortunately, so I'm going to do my best to present their work and bring you through Furnace and Fugue. So I am going to bring you to the site, but first I wanted to go through this PowerPoint that I've prepared to give you a sense of the process, what's involved in creating this kind of work, and also, of course, to always bring us back to the primary source, which is here. We will invite you all afterward, the Q&A, to come up and examine the book. It is a very interesting object, and I hope that Furnace and Fugue will pique your interest in getting up close there with the printed book. So this is a video of Tara flipping through Atalanta fugiens. So Furnace and Fugue is the title of our digital publication. It revolves around a book entitled Atalanta fugiens, or Atalanta fleeing, which was published in 1618. It's a work authored by Michael Meyer, who was an early modern German itinerant alchemist, is one way to put it. And this is an early modern multimedia book. And let me explain what I mean by that. It is a printed book, yes, but it consists of 50 emblem sets. And this is emblem 1. We have a musical score for 3 voices. We have the copper etching. We have an epigram in German and Latin, and then a discourse. So there are 50 such sets, and might just move forward because you'll be able to turn these pages in just a little bit. Here we go. This is the frontispiece of the book. So Atalanta fugiens, Atalanta fleeing. It is a book that takes Ovid's myth of Atalanta and Hippomenes and reinterprets it as an alchemical allegory. So on the frontispiece we see Atalanta here and Hippomenes in the famous race. Hippomenes is trying to beat her in the race by distracting her with these 3 golden apples. She stops to pick them up. Of course, she's distracted. He wins her. They consummate their love here in the temple, and the gods are angry with this outcome because Hippomenes has not thanked Venus for helping him to win Atalanta, and they are turned into lions. I don't think we see the lions actually on the frontispiece, and that is their eternal punishment. But you have this very beautiful, very rich, sort of continuous narrative that literally frames Michael Myers' initial message to the author, that this is a book that is meant to engage all of the senses: sight, sound, and intellect. And this is a charge to the reader to sort of come along with him as he's setting things in motion, very much as this race sets the myth into motion. And it is indeed a very interactive reading experience, even in the early 17th century. So again, this is a very small book, as you can see, easily held, easily shared. We also study the book within the context of court culture. So it was a sort of plaything, a book that was meant to be performed, but also the contents of the book was meant to be puzzled out. And so that element, that sort of performativity and playfulness of the book, we wanted to run with that. And that was an inspiration for the way that we decided to conceive of this and set it into motion in a digital realm. And let me go back for 1 minute. This is Emblem 11 that I show. And the epigram reads, and a phrase of that is, "Tear the books apart." And you can see this happening, literally. The pages of that book are being ripped apart in that image. Obviously, we're not suggesting that anyone tear books apart, but it is nice to think about that phrase and to unpack that and think about what we're trying to do with digital scholarly publishing by really pushing the boundaries and rethinking the page. So not tearing apart the page, but maybe dissolving the page for contemporary readers. We start with a primary source. We start with the object from the 17th century. And here we are. I'm with designers and developers who work on the project, sort of dismantling this book, thinking about ways to engage readers. So not just to present the book and its content, but also to pull contemporary readers and users into the experience of Atalanta fugiens. just a few more collages that I have to give you a sense of the collaborative nature of all of our projects. This is mainly Donna and Tara here. We work with screens, but we still also work with paper and highlighters. And we involve a lot of students here at Brown, undergraduates and graduate students. There are a lot of training that comes along with participation in the initiative for students, from text encoding to editorial work. They're involved in every part of the process. And in this particular case, I think we've probably had 3 students from the history department at least who have participated in this project. So there's always an opportunity here in the library, in the initiative in particular, to be involved. And this was an early workshop with faculty. Hal, I think that's you there, the head of the table. Again, working with Studio Rainwater. This is Sarah Rainwater, who's the principal of a local design firm. And she has, she and her colleagues worked on the design of Furnace and Fugue, and many of our other projects as well. Fred Jodry from Brown's music department and other vocalists and performers who came to Brown about a year ago. We have a recording studio just right outside of this room where we commissioned new vocal recordings for those 50 fugues. And so that's a very important part of the project, and I'm going to demonstrate that for you. And as the project comes together, we do a lot of user testing. This is Crystal Bruch, who is our designer for online publishing here in the library. And she is an interface expert. And so this was a course. Here's Tara. So this was one of her undergraduate classes, maybe a year or 2 ago. And they met in this room. And we set up temporarily an annotation tool so that they could go through the digital site and make comments and engage with the text in a very concentrated, studied way. And so we were making notes on what they were working on, where they were spending the most time. So that's an important part of this as well. And now I'm going to take you into Furnace and Fugue. So thank you for moving through those slides with me. This is the landing page that you see. I'm just going to switch modes here. Okay. So this is what you will encounter, and this will be encountered through the University of Virginia Press's website. As I mentioned, this project will be an open access publication, exclusively digital, so no downloads, no print component. And we're looking at a publication date of early fall 2020. The digital book, Furnace and Fugue, will be published as part of an existing series at Virginia on studies in early modern German history. So it's finding the most appropriate academic home, and it's a wonderful collaboration with Virginia. So we could not be happier. So here's the landing page, and I also, during the Q&A or afterward, I invite you all to come up and use my laptop to move through the site. I'm going to bring you into the table of contents. And I'll just move slowly through this so that you see what we have. So Furnace and Fugue then revolves around Atalanta fugiens. So there is a digital edition of the text, and then there is the interpretive content. We have 8 essays, including an introduction, and these have been authored by scholars from around the world. A very international team of experts contextualizing this book in various ways. So we have Michael Gaudio, art historian, musicologist, Eric Bianchi, etc. And the scholarly essays are about 65,000 words in total, just to give you a sense, again, of the weight of the interpretive content. That's very important for our Mellon projects, that we have that original scholarly interpretation, that scholarly narrative. And because this is a first for us and for many of us in the academy, it will be published by a university press. It is a scholarly work. But because of the digital presentation, we anticipate non-specialist users, and that's very exciting for us. We want this book to be as accessible as possible, and so we have these 3 short essays, Get Acquainted, that will introduce people new to this subject matter, to alchemy, to Michael Meyer, to early modern printmaking and early modern book publishing. So those are short pieces, about 1,000 words each. Let me show you this one. And so this will be the first interactive feature that you'll see today. We have this interactive map that scrolls as you read through the essay, and it traces Michael Meyer's travels across Europe. And then you can, let me see. We have these wonderful city views that pop up when you click on the city. So that's one of those 3 shorter, went back a little too far, here we go. And then, of course, about the project is very important. It explains the technology. It serves as a nice reader-friendly introduction to the project as a whole. We acknowledge all of the collaborators. And there is also a music performance edition for performers who want to go on performing the music of Atalanta fugiens. We make that very easy for them. So let me bring you into the digital edition now and play some of that music. So this is sort of a visual table of contents, if you will, that can bring you into the digital edition. I will just go to Emblem 3. So this is the default view, which is a comparative view. You have the facsimile copy, or the original book, on the left, and you have the modernized English on the right. Students have been actively involved in the transcription and translation of the text, and so you can change the view, you can change the language, you can read it in Latin, in German, and you can also skip ahead. I might just now go to Emblem 8, and I get that same default view. So I'm going to play some of the music. The volume is a bit high, but it's nice because we have great acoustics in this room, so I just want you to know that. So as you're you can read the early modern score on the left, and then we have a visualization that allows you to follow the music. You'll see that in blue. And there's also a wonderful interactive element, which is very, very innovative, which allows you to silence voices as you go along, so that you then are sort of controlling the narrative that is performed back to you. So I wanted to tell you all of that so I don't interrupt the music as I demo that. Well, music was working this morning. Give me a minute. I wonder if maybe, I know there was some work done on the screen. Let me see. I have to control the volume there. Let me go to a different emblem. Oh, I'm so sorry. There was difficulty channeling sound to the recording device here, and so the music may have been turned off as a result. But I think we're going to try and get it fixed, so I'll come back to it. But I think, though, visually that you get the idea of what is happening. All right, so as he's making a call, I'm going to move on to another part. Let's see. So we go through the music. There's a second visualization too, if you wanted to see patterns. But there too, I think I have to have the sound for that to get going. And here's the discourse then that we have in Latin on the left, and then the largely student transcription and translation on the right as we go through. So I'm going to move to the essays, and let me take you into Tara Nummedal's essay. Sound and Vision is the title. And it's divided into 5 sections, so you can move, you can change the reading order if you wish. We make it very easy for you to do that. And we have some wonderful zooming features here because these are very beautiful etchings, but also some of the emblems are quite peculiar as well, and you'll be surprised as you look at those. So we also, again, thinking about the non-specialist reader, we also have some visualizations in the sidebar here that just help to explain different, in this case, different modes of reading, horizontal, vertical. And then this is a sort of a guided looking exercise. It's an animation that moves as you scroll, and it follows Tara's argument. And again, every one of the essays has different features. Each one is different. But this is what we have here in her essay, and I'm coming up on another very exciting part of the project as a whole. You see the orange tab down here at the bottom. That's ever present across the site. Here we go. This is what I wanted to see. And so as I'm reading Tara's essay, you will encounter this icon here. In this case, it's in a comparison, but with any of the images from the book, you have that icon, which, when you click on this, will create a new collection. And what's happened now is this tab here has opened up, and I have the default view is the author's argument. So she was making this comparison, and now it's been moved.
See the audio output.
Oh, well, let me finish this section, and then thank you, and then we'll move back to audio. So those 2 emblems then are added to this space, which is now a space that can be customized by the user. And I might decide that, in fact, there are some other emblems that would fit in this collection. I'm sort of randomly selecting them now, but I've selected 3, and I'm going to add those to that collection. So inspired by the author's argument, or perhaps disagreeing with Tara, whatever it might be, I can then engage with that material. I can also change the order, move things around. I can, at any point, enlarge the emblem. And if I want to go back to the digital edition, I can do that from here. So I'm never losing the full context. If I want to know what the musical score associated with this emblem was, I'm just a click away from it. And then after I've had fun playing with this, I can share this with students, with colleagues. So a unique URL would be generated, and I can share that. The Furnace and Fugue does not require a login of any sort, so if I share that link with someone, you can then engage with me, agree, disagree, etc. Of course, I can change the size there. I can delete the collection altogether. And at any point, I don't have to be in a particular essay at any time. Even if I'm in the digital edition, I can open this tab. I can create a new collection. I'll call this one Family Weekend. And then I'm able to select images, as I did before. So maybe now, let's see what we can do with audio. Okay.
Promise anything, but just going to see what the audio settings are.
So while we're trying to sort that out, a few other things I can say about Furnace and Fugue. I think you see the impact of the visual is very striking. It's yeah, okay. Let's see. So I have to move us to an emblem. Okay, let's try it again. Okay, so I'm sorry that we can't show this off, but as soon as this is published, well, the thing is when let me see, good idea how, I thought that I wasn't, can we, but can we still project it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay, great. Thank you, Hal. I didn't want you to leave without hearing the music. So this is such a special feature of this project. Obviously, it's beautiful music, and of course the visualization helps a variety of readers to follow along with this, to participate, and then of course truly participating by changing the sound and making those adjustments. Now that our sound is working, I just have to do one more for you. And this time, I'll show you the alternative sound visualization that we have. So this is Emblem 4. So this is also particularly helpful for those who want to follow patterns in the music. And I should say, too, that we spend a great amount of attention on accessibility so that we have alternative text that accompanies all of the images, all of the interactive features that can be used by a screen reader for visually impaired readers or users. It's also helps us with preservation of the site as well. So I believe that I have now walked you through the major components of the site. There are wonderful search features too. Let me just show you one of those. Let's see here. Okay, so I will do fire. And this very extensive search feature that was designed in-house will point to images with fire, or where fire is mentioned in the digital edition. And of course, fire is very popular in this project, so I would have to scroll quite a bit, but then also individual emblems and the essays themselves. And then this is an image search, which is also quite innovative. And so this is a faceted search, so there are keywords here, and I might select Diana Luna. So this pulls up the 4 images where Diana appears, and this is a really just fantastic feature that I really love, which indicates where in the set of 50 emblems those appear. So if you also wanted to investigate certain patterns there too in terms of the appearance of some of these figures or objects. So I think I will stop here, open it up for questions, and then invite you all to come and experiment. Yes?
So of all the magical books in the world, how did you choose this book to do this much in-depth work on?
Well, Tara and Donna chose it, right? So they came to us with this idea. All of our projects of the initiative are faculty-led. So the faculty bring ideas to us, and the faculty advisory committee convenes to make really tough decisions because we have so great faculty, great ideas, great projects. Furnace and Fugue clearly just lent itself perfectly to, especially for a pilot project, to really explore what can be done with scholarship in the digital realm. And we couldn't be happier with the results. It has been a lot of work, a lot of trial and error, but we're really pleased. We think that this project is very representative of what we're able to do. And we certainly do see this as a model, certainly for other digital edition projects. All of our projects in the portfolio, as you saw from the list, they're very different, and that's intentional. We're really pushing ourselves, so we don't want to replicate this, at least not now. So every project feels like a pilot project and has its own challenges, and we want to work through that. So this was it was a great experiment, proved to be very successful, and we're really pleased now that other authors, other institutions can use this as a model with different early modern or later texts. Or exactly. And what's so wonderful, this is a project that revolves around a primary source, an early modern text. And time and again, when we present to students or other audiences, people want to know more about the book. So this doesn't introduce separation at all. If anything, it really sheds more light and piques the interest of readers on that original source. So that's good.
2 questions. First is this also an initial project for UVA through their press. I mean, is this the first digital book? And then what does that mean for marketing and getting the word out? Because this is amazing. And clearly a breakthrough in a lot of different ways. So how do you get the word out?
Thank you. That's the fun part. I mean, it's all fun, I have to say, but I'm really looking forward to the lead up to publication now and working with Virginia. So this Furnace and Fugue will not be Virginia's first digital publication. They have a platform called Rotunda, but they have largely published presidential papers with some audio files, but very different types of scholarship and presentation. So this will be the first interactive, multimodal, long-form scholarly work that they are publishing. And you can see this is a highly customized site. There is nothing else like it. The site was built here at Brown by developers based in the SciLi, in the Sciences Library, or Digital Technologies, which is also part of the library, and of course members of the Center for Digital Scholarship, which is based here in the Rock. And we've also worked with with vendors, designers and developers who have also created different components or set the design directive. So this is something that can't be plugged into an existing platform or template necessarily because it's so customized. So in the case of Furnace and Fugue, Brown will host Furnace and Fugue on a library server, and it will be accessible through Virginia's website. That's sort of the mechanism that we're working out right now. And publication will be early fall 2020, so we've got a great long lead up to publication, and so there will be a very robust marketing effort. So there will be a lot of buzz around the project before it is officially published. So that is, that's going to be a really crucial part of this, of course, is visibility. Discoverability once it is published, but even leading up to that, making sure that reviewers are aware of it, making sure that journals have the link and can send it out to readers, and we can have some reviews published as well. We also, of course, want this to be submitted for prizes within a variety of fields. The Renaissance Society of America, for example, just this year announced a Digital Innovation Award, but we will just miss that, unfortunately, because we're still working with a review site. So next year, though, we would submit for that award, and I think that certainly what we're doing here is brand new, very innovative, but we also are seeing certainly publishers now, an interesting, wonderful trajectory. Publishers now ready for this kind of content. So Brown has been the recipient of a Mellon Award, but so have a number of university presses. And so they have been developing platforms or infrastructure at the press to accommodate this kind of work. And of course, here at Brown, we have been creating the content. So to see this convergence of trajectories is really promising. So it's a very exciting moment as we look ahead to the next 6 years.
Also, what kinds of provisions are you making now or thinking about making to anticipate changes in technology going forward that may affect this project?
Yeah, great question, right? What, 10 years from now, will all of the music work? I mean, today I had a glitch with the music, but I think it was the room, not the site. So we do have to think about that. We do very actively think about that every day. Brown will host this site. This is the arrangement with Virginia. Each project will have a different publishing plan, but we would also be responsible for maintenance, of course, because we're hosting it, and right, and we're, we have a lot invested here. We want our faculty authors' work to live on forever, as long as possible. So there are preservation conversations that we have on a very regular basis, and yeah. So you know, we do the best that we can. We do understand that technology is evolving rapidly, and so we will save Furnace and Fugue in pieces as well, and we will have alternative text that will describe what happens with a certain interactive feature, so that if that interactivity is not functioning in 20 years, there will be sort of a record of what was there. So, you know, with colleagues at other institutions as well, I have these conversations. It's very much what we talk about at conferences, because every Center for Digital Scholarship or library or institution is approaching this in a slightly different way. So we all have our own workflow, and we know what works best at our own institution. But when we come together, these are the big pressing questions. How are you saving this? What steps are you taking? And so we're establishing best practices collectively as we go.
Is the goal open access for all of the future projects? So you mentioned that maybe it was.
Great question. No, not necessarily. So the Mellon Foundation does not insist that the work be open access. They do prefer that we use open source software, and we adhere to that, certainly. But the question of open access is really a question to be had with the publisher and the author on a project-by-project basis. To publish Furnace and Fugue as an open access, exclusively digital title worked well for the press and for the author. But future projects may have a paywall. We don't know yet.
Is part of the goal to have like colleges be able to offer classes and have a book that's, you don't have to pay for the text, you just go online and get it?
Well, certainly a project like Furnace and Fugue, we know has a lot to offer from a teaching perspective, and Tara has been using it extensively in her courses, graduate and undergraduate, and we received 3 very positive readers' reports as part of the peer review process, and all 3 of those scholars complimented the site on the advantages of using this in a classroom. One even suggested building an entire course around Furnace and Fugue. We would love that, of course. Just depends upon the semester, the faculty, what have you. But we are not. We're not setting out to create digital textbooks. I can say that. But I think, again, because of the innovative quality of these projects, and because so many of them do sort of come back around to primary sources, we do see that as one way of using them very successfully. Well, if there are no more questions, I invite you to use my laptop or come and consult the book. My colleague Heather Cole is here. She's happy to turn pages for you. And please, come get to know this beautiful object a little better.